The Brew World Order is an official program of the BrewTubers Online Brewers Club Network, featuring the latest news, updates, and interviews from the BrewTubers community. So sit back, relax, and crack open that freshly made home brew and join us as we get to know the BrewTubers from your favorite online brewers club. And now your host, Leo J. Bailey.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 5 of the Brew World Order, an official program of the BrewTubers Online Brewers Club Network. You can find this on the YouTube channels, obviously, and as well as you can with a lot of our members. You can find us at www.brewtubers.com. Check out the website. Hey, come have a chat with us on the Discord channel. I think that you would find there is a wealth of knowledge. Consider being a member. We'd love to have you. All you got to do is be able to brew and shoot some YouTube video. We'd love to have you as a member of the club. Please check us out. Go to the website and check out our merch as well. T-shirts, caps, hats, Brew World Order t-shirt. Coming up on this episode very shortly, we are going to have a very brief introductory interview with Mr. Dennis Pynn from Woodshed Brewing Company. He's up out of Rochester, New York. He is also our social media officer when it comes to, I believe it is Twitter, is he likes to keep a handle on that particular account for us. And yeah, we're going to have a little chat with Dennis. Dennis has been very, very busy. Going on in the club, we just had our meeting this previous Friday. Not a lot going on to update you with other than financials look really good. There was a very hefty discussion during happy hour of the brew union that a bunch of the knuckleheads did up in Dave Phelps, our previous interviewee. We had that with Dave last episode, and a bunch of the guys, Gary and Nick and Sean, Dave, I can't remember everybody that was there. Lou Brew was there. Yeah, apparently they had a hell of a time. If you're interested, check us on the Discord. I think at some point there will be either video or pictures relating to the very cool t-shirts that were made for that particular event. Hi Dave, love you. Yeah. Things are going well with the yeast experiments right now. The BrewTubers 2021 Quebec yeast experiments, they are knee-deep in the DKN. I know there's a lot of videos, a lot of tastings and reviews been done on them. So we are starting to get into the Saisons, I believe now. I haven't even kept up. As of this morning, Sunday, July 11th, Gary just posted a bunch of new stuff up, and so please go check out all the little reviews and the channels. If you have not subscribed, please do so. If you're not a subscriber to this, please do so. The BrewTubers YouTube channel, it has a handful of things that are pretty interesting. Mostly right now it's the BWO. But other than that, things are kicking along really well. We are just now starting to discuss next year's NHC. So that'll be popping up in the Discord channel. We got plenty of time to get ready for that. It's 10 months before we're jumping into that. Maybe a little less, something like that, a little more, maybe. Anyway, look, that's coming. It's going to be a big deal. I think we're doing that in Pittsburgh. So all the brewers around everywhere are going to be excited about that. Hey, coming up, we are going to have a nice little chat with Mr. Dennis Pynn, bust on him about all his collaborations that he loves to do. And yeah, if you haven't met him, you'll get a chance to do so, and we'll talk about his YouTube channel and all the stuff that he's been into here lately. So, alright, stick around. We'll have a chat right after this brief message. Imperial Yeast was founded on the ideal that if you are going to do something, do it right. Through many years of experience in liquid yeast and craft brewing, they understand that home brewers and pros alike need access to better yeast, service, and support. Their staff has decades invested in liquid yeast and professional brewing, alongside countless afternoons and evenings spent home brewing. Imperial Yeast. Pitch right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You just had a chance to see our Imperial Yeast commercial, since we are knee-deep in all of the yeast experiments going on. But more importantly, would everyone please say a big hello, lots of applause noise that no one will ever hear. Say hello to the man responsible for everything that is Woodshed Brewing Company out of Rochester, New York. Say hello to Mr. Dennis Pynn. Thank you for being on here, Dennis.
How you doing, guys?
Or Dave.
Or Dave, yes. Depending on who you're talking to, right?
At some point, yeah. I mean, we're just going to start blending the two together, I think. And speaking of Dave, I have to do a throwback to... man, how do we get our hands on one of those fancy T-shirts that were at the Brew Union? If I had one, I would have worn it today. I know it. You're not. So you have been doing this for, if I'm not mistaken, you've been a brewer for roughly 5 years or so?
I started February break of 2015. Like most people, I had an extract kit. Had a buddy of mine say, you interested in brewing? I'd been a macro guy. I had a kegerator with quarter kegs in Rochester, Genesee Brewing. That's what you gotta, if you're going to live in this town, you better be with a local brewery. So
absolutely.
Had a buddy talk about homebrewing. I'd never heard of it before. And I was like, this sounds cool. So I kind of checked it out for the first time. And like everybody, you get on YouTube and you kind of watch, and unbeknownst to me, I was actually watching a bunch of BrewTubers as I was going through it. So in the first probably month or so, I did a couple of extract kits and just trying to figure out what's going on. And like Gary, main brew guy, and a bunch of the guys that are in the club now, I was watching their videos and didn't know what BrewTubers even were. It's just kind of watching the videos and kind of learning as I go along. So yeah, it's been probably this February, I think it'll be 6 years I've been brewing now.
So 6 years into it, we had last year was off, kind of with COVID, and there wasn't the SJ Pour Challenge. So that would have put you went from brewing to winning the SJ Pour Challenge year 4.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away.
Dude.
I was hoping to make it out of the first round. That was my only goal, was just to make it out of the first round. And at that point, it's the only competition I had really gotten into, because I didn't have very many folks around me that homebrewed. So I was kind of looking to see, how do I get better at this? Because like everybody, once you get into it, like, all right, well, I got to get into this both feet now and try to improve. And I was, SJ was one of the guys that were BrewTubers I was watching. And then I saw the competition. I was like, well, $30 and shipping some beer doesn't seem like that hard. And I get some try. And I end up winning the competition. So this was the trophy.
There it is.
Yeah. That was, it's a huge hydrometer.
That is massive.
Yeah, it was, it blew me away. I never in a million years thought that I was going to, like I said, my hope was I can make it out of the first round. And
what is the beer that you brewed for that competition?
So I call it Snowstorm. It was a kettle sour that I brewed on a day that we were off. I'm a teacher. We're off from school on a snowstorm. Right. So I played around with kettle sours, and so I decided to give it a shot. And it was 3 pounds of mixed berries. It's blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries. It's kind of your straight blend you'd get out of Walmart or any of your local Mega Mart types of places. And it's 3 pounds of that done up. So I'd been playing around with that, and I decided to put that in because I felt like I had great response from guys that I know that like beer.
Right.
I threw it in, and I'm like, well, give it a shot and see what happens. And unbeknownst to me,
you see what happens.
Yeah, I think at times it's definitely hitting the right beer at the right time for the right time of the season. It's some like IPAs or your NEPAs. There's so many of them. How do you try to make them apart? So I didn't even think about it putting it in that way. It just, to me, it was the best beer I could make at that time.
Yep. So
I put it in. And there's a ton of NEPAs in the competition. So I think sometimes being the same as everybody else makes it hard. And that was, I think, kind of set it apart being a kettle sour. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah. So,
I would say that, if anybody has learned that lesson, look where Nick and Brandon are, with a lot of their entries. They are heavy into the NEPAs,
yep.
even though they've walked away with awards.
Yep.
I think the most recent thing they went into, they knew that, what was it? It's close to 300 contestants or something like that.
It's crazy.
That's insanity to me. I have yet to have the courage to do it just yet, to enter any kind of a competition. I just got the courage to ship a handful of beers out to a few people. And, at least Wally and Nate were nice enough to go, yeah, it was all right. So, I'll take that as a win. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Even though I knew it wasn't one of the best things I've ever done. Going back to what you just said a minute ago, did you expect, when you first started brewing, did you expect, or was it your goal? Let me re-ask that question differently. Was it your goal to get into kettle sours the way that you have done? Because within our group, you really seem to kind of be the sour guy.
Yeah, no, it was not my goal. Actually, matter of fact, my first brew was a stout, and I like lagers, like stouts. IPAs weren't even something that was, big on. As I started getting into craft beer, I started to like them more and more. It's an acquired taste, like any beer is.
Right.
But no, sours was never something that I was really all that interested in. I had a few of them that were commercial, and I was like, wow, I've always liked the tart apple, in the fall, you get a little bit before. So I think for me, it's a flavor profile. And then what I've kind of gotten into is I've got to work through it is, how do you hit the middle of the road for it? So it's not so sour for people that are big sour fans. They want that enamel peeling sour. Right. And it's not so, you can't even call it a sour when it's too far on the other side. So that nice midline tartness that you can kind of find. So it wasn't a goal of mine to get into sours. It's just kind of learning about it and figuring out. And the first time I said, well, what's the worst going to happen? It's a nice thing as a home brewer. It's 5 gallons. If it's a dumper, it's a dumper. And the first time I did it, I was like, wow, this actually turned out, I at least liked it. And I think that's kind of the goal. If you like it and you don't mind drinking it, well then,
absolutely.
Great. From that point, if there's other people you like to share beer with and they like it, and like, wow, all right, well then this kind of feeds into your, how do I get better at this?
Yeah. When I get brave enough to finally do mine, your door is going to be the first one I'm going to start knocking on, because watching your videos and through your process and everything you have with your equipment and to a brewed and that you shared. And the other thing, because we're going to have to get into a little bit of depth on this, is how you have become the collab king within BrewTubers is amazing to me. And the only one that probably would push you hard would either be Matt or Gary. Yeah. One of those two guys would be a close second.
Yeah. We'll talk about it, but I don't know how that happened either, but it works.
Well, dude, that's awesome. And you've had a chance now. So when you first started, I guess when I first met you within BrewTubers, you still only had like 1 or 2 videos. You had done very little. Now you're knocking them out. You've been part of the yeast experiment. You've been knocking all these videos out, and then all these collaborations, which I try to catch everything that's out there. You just went from here to here within a real brief period of time as far as content and what you've been putting out.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was hesitant to do it. As a teacher, you're hesitant to do this because you don't know, do I put my face in front of the camera? So for the first 6 months, I didn't even put my face on there. So I wasn't sure. And I decided, all right, I'm going to do it and kind of move into this. And then with the SJ Pour Challenge, the expectation is you're going to review the beers on there. And that was part of it to push me forward as well. I was actually just looking the other day before our club meeting. I started the channel the 9th of July last summer. So just gone over a year anniversary.
Just over a year, man. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even put those numbers together, man. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I knew it was sometime last summer, but I didn't know when it was. So I had to scroll back and find it when the first one was posted. And the first one I think I did just a simple walkthrough of my brewery, and it's changed a ton in the last year, even since then. Yeah. But I think as of today, I've got 359 subscribers, which blows me away that anybody spends time listening to this ugly mug drone on about beer.
That's hysterical. So. And I think I was teasing with somebody last week on Discord. We were talking about somebody that jumped up to a higher number as far as subscribers. And I'm just shaking my head because ever since, and I understood it was going to be painful, that when I decided to step away from all other social media except for Instagram and YouTube, my subscribers are going this way.
Yeah. It's
and I'm not putting nearly the content that I was putting out a while ago either. So
that I think that's the other piece of it. If you're doing it on a regular basis, putting that out, I think that it gets in front of people more often, and it gets, who knows what the algorithms are on YouTube and how does things end up in your feed. So
it's weird, man, because have you not noticed that some people, and it hasn't really happened to me, but I noticed it a while back, you might put something out that you think is just the most innocuous thing, and you'll end up with over 1,000 views. And yet, after that, you go back to something, you know, the next video you put out, you put more effort, and you go, this is going to be even better, and you get your standard 60.
Yeah, I hit on something that I had no idea. I hit on keg fermenting. So I've been looking at time, money wise. Right. That's what we all do is, all right, how do I improve my brewing and improve my equipment without spending a crap ton of money?
Right.
So I was listening to a Brewlosophy podcast while I'm mowing the lawn. That's kind of what I typically try to catch up with everybody's podcast.
Yep.
And they were talking about different fermentation types of vessels. And I was looking at going to what a lot of you guys have is the stainless steel buckets. I'd been in the glass carboys. I wanted to upgrade. I wanted to do the stainless steel. Right. And one of the things they talked about was going to keg fermenting. And I was like, geez, I've got a couple extra kegs sitting around. Why don't I try it? So I decided to go to it. And I did a video on just my process. And I tried to, any of the videos I do, I try to put in there going, this is my process, is by no means the only way of doing it. And I learned from watching other people. I looked at the other day, there's 17,000 views on that one video. And I have no idea why that video went off like that.
And yet with those kind of views, you don't pick up the subscribers that you think that you would.
Yeah. So I don't know.
How does I still, as far as the algorithms and anything with social media, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think for a lot of us, we do what we do because we enjoy it. Whether, I get any subscribers, it really doesn't matter to me, especially at this point. I'm curious to see if Nick is going to be correct when I do the rebuild of the brewery with the claw hammer system and show from beginning to end how that builds, whether he seems to think that that's going to be a big viewership. And I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been going back through, because I'm also the Twitter guy for the club. So it's social media guy. And so I kind of watch some of the views as they go through. The grain to glass videos seem to be a high bump in views. Podcasts, I was looking at that the other day, just kind of looking through. The podcast views are definitely one that people are really in. So I tweet when a new podcast comes out of any of the guys in the club, and there was a ton of eyes on that as well. So I think you have to find the right mix of interest for people. If you have a thumbnail, I think that helps get you seen out there. And what's the topic? So I think, you never know that Nick may be right, that might very well be, builds or something that people do like to watch. So
we're going to find out. And then, if I have to, I'll cheat, and then I'll have to steal your idea on your keg thing and see if I can get those kind of views as well.
There you go.
So,
jump in on it.
All right. Look, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We are going to show you a quick little commercial from our friends up in Danvers, Massachusetts, our little supplier of brewing equipment and ingredients. And check out this little commercial from Beer and Wine Hobby. We'll be right back.
Beer and Wine Hobby are a family-owned business since 1972 and have been providing the world's finest ingredients and equipment to make wine, craft beer, cheese, cordials, and soft drinks to countless individuals. The trained staff at Beer and Wine Hobby have years of experience and will assist you in solving any problems you encounter during the process, and they are committed to providing you with fast, accurate shipping of your merchandise. You can place orders online at their website or shop the store in Danvers, Massachusetts. Beer and Wine Hobby, family owned since 1972.
Hey, welcome back, people. We are having a nice little discussion with Mr. Dennis Pynn from Woodshed Brewing Company. You just got to see our little commercial from Beer and Wine Hobby, our suppliers out of Danvers, Massachusetts. We ended, before we went into break, we were chatting a little bit. Dennis is our social media manager of Twitter and oversees all of that. How are we looking on that account? I would imagine we've got at least a handful of people that follow our Twitter account.
Yeah, as of last count, I think we were up around the 275 range. Maybe we're getting close to 300 followers.
Okay.
So I think we've been pretty standard or pretty set in terms of adding new followers each month. I think this last month we had 3 or 4 new followers. The month before it was 10 or 11. So I think that's kind of right in that range in terms of 4, 5, 6 new followers a month.
And it's kind of like we were discussing before. Sometimes you got to wonder, where we get the followers from, where we get some of that information. Sometimes it bounces up, sometimes it goes down. I noticed that on my Instagram account. I can go a month without anybody really paying that much. Well, there's the likes and people like the stuff that I put on. That's the most active account I have. But then you don't get the new followers, and then you post something and then boom. There's 5, 10 people that within a week's period of time, you get all these different new followers. And of course, everything that with me personally, it's either about cats or it's about beer, it's about music. So you would think that I would be the biggest thing on Instagram right now, but that has not happened. So Are you digging the role as far as kind of keeping an eye on everything that we have going on there?
Yeah. So basically, my biggest job is to try to promote people's videos from BrewTubers. So when people have new content that comes out, helping get that content out to other people outside the club, so other people can see what's going on, and you're helping promote other people's channels going through it. So this has been a real busy time, basically for the last month or so, because the reviews coming up. So everybody that's doing the yeast experiments currently, a lot of people are still finishing up their DKN, the Dropkick Nate. And those reviews are still coming out. So every time a review comes out, I'm taking that and then posting it through Twitter and getting that information out. And then people are starting to hit the Saisons now. So that I was actually the hub for the Saison experiment. So it's been a little bit of a
you've had your hands full. Yeah,
it's a shout between getting the videos out and getting all the beers in and getting them turned back to everybody. And then now it's starting to do the reviews. So but it's fun. I have a good time doing it. And I felt like Twitter was something that I'm not a Facebook person. I just joined Instagram recently, and I'm just kind of learning that I've never been an Instagram person. So Twitter was something that I used, and it was more for kind of a news feed for me. So I figured I at least had some background in that.
Gotcha.
I could help the club out in at least a meaningful way that worked with at least my background in it.
No, dude, awesome. And as soon as, of course, once this is posted, you'll have another one to get up in there.
That's right. Yes.
To say.
We'll post that.
We're still, as most people know, this is episode 5 of the Brew World Order. We're still trying to get this to grow a little bit as we can.
Yep.
And hopefully, as far as our YouTube channel for BrewTubers, hopefully we'll get some more content, and maybe somebody else can, maybe get into something more interesting than what I stupidly do here. Trying to get you all to chat with me, which has been tremendous fun so far for me anyway. So your brewing, you've been in the Saison experiment as you've been doing the yeast experiment in general. What is the next big brew that you have on your horizon as far as a good brew day for you?
I have a ton coming up actually. So I haven't brewed actually since the Saison beer. So that is probably end of April, beginning of May. So on top of being a teacher, I also coach football, indoor track and outdoor track. So my weekends since January have gotten kind of sucked up with COVID. They condensed all of our seasons this year, and it's been back to back. So finding time that wasn't a track meet or something else going on, it's been hard. So next one coming up, I have 6 taps on my kegerator, and I only have 2 beers on right now. So I have a ton of brewing coming up. I'd like to do another NEPA. I'd like to do the DKN, the hop dipping. I think Gary just posted a video on it recently.
Yeah.
Instead of the whirlpool hops versus putting it into kind of steeping, basically your hops. I'd like to try that. I'd like to do some kettle sours. I have a beer that I've been working on. I call it Berries and Barb. It's a rhubarb saison, strawberry rhubarb saison. I actually stole the recipe off of Chop and Brew. There was a guy on Chop and Brew when that channel started, and they moved out of Brewing TV. There was a guy that had it. I was like, oh, I've got rhubarb in my yard. So I've been playing with that, and I want to brew that a couple times. So,
oh my God.
So got some things
coming up. I can't say that I've ever had a beer that had rhubarb in it.
Yeah. So the last one I did had too much rhubarb, and the strawberries are hard to keep the flavor in. They fall off pretty quick. So I've got a new yeast, Omega Labs does it. It's, it's fairly brand new. They've been doing some genetics on Belgian yeast to be able to pull some of the phenols and drop banana clove and drive some other ones. I think it's called Sun something. I can post it in the notes at some point down the line, but they have one that's like super banana and one that's super strawberry. So I'm going to try that and see if I can't push more strawberry flavor in and drop the rhubarb a little bit. So
it is interesting because we were talking about that in our meeting last Friday. And it might've been during happy hour after the meeting, is when we were talking about Gary. Gary likes to do a lot of stuff with coconut and has struggled with, makes a great beer. It's got coconut presence, and then very quickly it just fades off. And apparently strawberries, I would have to imagine, relatively similar to that, because I've never brewed anything with strawberry. I have with coconut, and I've experienced the same thing that he did. It's there, and then it just kind of disappears.
Yeah. So I think it's a challenge with all berries and trying to get the fruit flavor to stay with it. It's one of the things I've done with my sours is I've added lactose to it to help bump that flavor of the berries stay, to add a little bit of sweetness to it to help that berry flavor to hang around. And I think it's, at least in my opinion, it's helped out the flavor not drop out as fast. So
right.
Something to try and see. Who knows? There's so many different ways of doing it.
So you just recently updated your brewing rig. You started making some changes. You've been building it as you go along, very similar to almost what all of us do from one time or the other. Are you settled in with where you are now, or do you have changes coming on that rig in the future?
I think I'm pretty much there. Natural gas is what I have I have an Amish built shed that's out back, and the previous owner of our house had a in-ground pool put in and had a heater. So the natural gas was already run. So I had already had the natural gas there. So I'm not going away from that and going to electric anytime soon, because I have it available and it works well for me.
Right.
I like the flexibility I have now that I could go down to a 2.5, 3 gallon batch all the way up to, I could probably go 12.5 or 13 gallons is the max I can go. I have a 15 gallon. Yep. I actually, Dave from Big Dog Brewing, when he changed over to the foundry, he had a 15-gallon kettle that he didn't want anymore. So I bought it off of him. And I basically have combined the claw hammer design with the screen mesh and the Brew Easy from Blickman and have them stacked. So I combined those two processes and put them together, and it works for the space I have. So I think I'm
awesome.
Pretty well set on the process now.
Right. Yeah. Because if anybody, look, I'm going to tell you straight up, and I normally would by the end of our conversation anyway. If you do not already subscribe to Dennis's channel, please go do so at Woodshed Brewing Company. Some of the information, and you are so good at when you walk through a grain to glass type of video and you go into details and how you get through your day. It's the things that I most recently was watching you when you made that upgrade where you were able to start stacking things. You built it out bigger. You started making the system for you better than what you had, which is, you would hope we all would at some point. And I'm just fascinated by how all of us, and because you can go from Gary's systems, from Matt's systems to yours, Nate, Wally, everybody's systems are so uniquely different.
Yeah. And
we're all still learning as we go. We're still trying to put things together and doing our best to make some, decent damn beers anyway. Yep. So I think for the most part, we've succeeded.
Yeah. And I think that's the key to the whole thing is every time you're brewing, you're learning. So whether it's a screw up or you've nailed it, you're learning the process each time, you're refining. even if it's not an equipment change, I think you refine things to say, all right, how do I improve my efficiencies? How do I make the best use of my time? Because I think we're all in the similar boat, whether you have families, you don't have families, you don't have 8 or 10 hours in a day to give this. So how do you break it up, and how do you do the best job you can of using your time wisely to still be able to enjoy the hobby that you enjoy,
True.
You like?
I mean, you and I were talking about this off camera a minute ago. The system I have is just a gathering of stuff. I do the 3-gallon batches, and I've gotten it so tuned in. I am right there with all of my numbers every time I brew it. And now I'm getting ready to change everything all up totally again. One of the things that I do get a kick out of, because we teased Nick, I guess it was a couple months back, he had a complete disaster of a brew day, a water line. I think he was trying to chill something down. And we all have these moments where nothing goes exactly as we planned.
Yep.
And the Simcoe IPA that I made recently was just that. I brain farted and did not whirlpool. And it was supposed to be the first time I was ever going to whirlpool. So you would think that it would be top of mind.
Yeah.
Then I completely double brain farted and didn't dry hop. So, but I sent the beer out anyway. And Nate and Wally both kind of went, it's not terribly bad. It was drinkable, but it's the thing that I want to do this coming Sunday when I brew the IPA I'm going to do. It'll be the first time I will officially whirlpool.
There you go.
But hopefully that'll be something we get into. Before I let you go, Dennis, you know the drill. We always have to have the next victim that is lined up for this particular little show that we do here, and talking about our BrewTubers. And I have had Matt, I have had Wally, I've had Dave or Dennis, depending on who you want to call each other at any given day. But it is now your turn, sir, to let us know, who should I be chatting with next month?
Yeah, I was actually trying to come up with that the other night at our board meeting, and I was looking through and we were talking. It was happy hour, and I was like, who's interesting, and who do you want to listen to, and who do you want to watch, and who's good content? And Nate Pico is definitely a guy that I think would be great content, and he's a heck of a guy. Very giving, gives you all kinds of information, but I think he'd be awesome content because he's a funny guy to talk to.
He is. We might have a lot of trouble keeping that to a minimum information. when we were doing happy hour, and I'm going to pick on Nick on this one. We're doing happy hour, and Nate said something to me about, because I think I was telling everybody I was chewing up the concrete in my carport, and everybody's asking how that went. We're talking about it, and Nick said, "Hey, I got the song. Have you ever heard this?" And the moment that Nate starts talking music with me, it can become a conversation that will last way too long. And there we are in the middle of happy hour, and there were 7 of us, I think, in happy hour at one point, and you could just see Nick's eyes starting to glaze over, because we just kept yakking, and Nick just, you could just see him start to fade away. It's like, all right, Nate, we got to stop talking about music about old dudes and get back
to brewing, right?
Beer. Yeah. So absolutely, I will make sure that Nate is fully understanding that we will have to have a talk, and somehow I will do my best at keeping it beer related, but I don't know how that's going to happen. Well, brother, thank you so much for being a part of this. Subscribe to Dennis's channel. You are on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram.
Just recently, Instagram, yep. And it's
Woodshed Brewing. Are you still on Facebook?
I am not on Facebook anymore. I just got to a point. It wasn't something that I was taking time with. So I'm not on Facebook anymore. So
I will have a chat with you offline. We will talk. I'll get all the links to all of the stuff that you have. Go check out his channels, subscribe to his channels, and watch some of his videos, because I honestly think that it's ridiculous information. And maybe one day I'll be lucky enough to be part of the collab group that you seem to have growing.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me, Leo.
Hey, man, thank you. And of course, when it comes to the world of BrewTubers, at some point or another, I will probably have each and every one of you on here again. And if not, at some point we'll find out. We're going to put feelers out and see, would anybody love these interviews to be in a longer format. And I think we'll look into that maybe at the end of the year and something of that nature. But thank you, sir. Bless you for being a part of this. And hey, I'll see you on the other side, brother. Be good.
Absolutely. Sláinte, folks.
Thank you.